There are things that have existed longer than this world, longer than the first human breath, longer than the first prayer. Things that were here before we had words for them, before we even have gods to protect us from them. And sometimes those things get hungry. This is the story of Rose, a girl who picked up something from the floor and brought it home, not knowing something inside it had already chosen her long before she found it. Rose was 25, beautiful in a way that made people uncomfortable, not because she was vain, but because her beauty felt almost unfair. Light skin that glowed without effort, long hair, fine lips, a figure that made people look twice and hate themselves for looking. She lived alone in Lagos. She had a decent job. She had a decent life. But decent was never enough for Rose. She had a best friend, Tammy, who had a boyfriend in the UK. He sent money, he sent packages, he video called every night. And Rose watched all of this from the side, smiling, but never really smiling. She was more beautiful than Tammy. Everyone knew it. Even Tammy knew it. So why was Tammy the one being chosen? That question lived in Rose like a wound that wouldn't close. And wounds are exactly what certain things look for when they are searching for a way in. It was a Tuesday morning. Rose was walking to the bus stop. The street was quiet, just her and the early morning. And then she saw it, propped against the fence, like it had always been there, a mirror. Tall, ornate, the frame carved from something dark and ancient, patterns running along every edge. Not decorations, warnings, written in the language older than any tongue still spoken today. Rose did not read them. Rose looked at her reflection and smiled. She looked left. She looked right. Nobody was watching. Nobody was claiming it. She called her neighbor to help her carry it home. The whole way back, she kept saying, "God is too good. God has blessed me today. This is God's blessing, free of charge." Her neighbor said nothing, but her hand kept slipping off the frame, like her body was refusing to hold it for too long. She did not understand why. Some things cannot be explained. It can only be felt and then ignored to your own destruction. Rose placed the mirror in her bedroom, against the wall, directly opposite her bed. So it was the first thing she saw every morning and the last thing she saw every night. That first night, she stood before it for a long time, just looking, turning, admiring. She did not notice that her reflection took slightly longer than it should, just slightly, half a breath behind. And when she finally turned away to sleep, her reflection did not turn away at the same time. It stood there for 3 full seconds, looking at her sleeping body. Then it moved, normal again, like nothing happened. But something had already begun. Now sit back and enjoy this story. But before we continue, please tell me where you are watching from in the comment section. That mirror had not been lost. It had not been abandoned. It had been placed long before Rose was born, in a village that no longer exists on any map. Something was sealed inside that mirror. Not a ghost, not a demon in any way we understand. Something older, something that existed before this world had a name, before the first human drew their first breath. It had been wearing bodies since before memory, finding vessels, inhabiting them, using them completely until there was nothing left. Then moving to the next. For generations, a village suffered, person after person, becoming a stranger in their own skin, their family watching something ancient look back at them through familiar eyes, until the elders had enough. They gathered. They performed something that took 7 days and cost 3 of them their lives. And they sealed it inside this mirror, bound by carvings that said one thing: do not look. But Rose looked for an hour the very first night, and something that had been waiting in darkness for longer than this country had existed opened its eyes. The changes started slowly. Day 1. Rose woke up more beautiful than she had been the day before. Noticeably, impossibly, her skin glowing brighter, her eyes deeper. She thought it was the mirror. Good lighting, a good angle. She did not consider that beauty stolen from inside looks different from beauty earned. By day 3, she woke up at 3 a.m. standing, not sitting in bed, not groggy and confused. Standing in the middle of her room, facing the mirror, eyes wide open. She did not remember getting up. She did not even remember walking to that spot, because she had not. She went back to bed, told herself she was sleepwalking. She had never sleepwalked in her life, in her entire life. By day 5, she woke up standing again. That same spot, that same position. But this time, her hand was pressed flat against the mirror, her palm on the glass, and the glass was warm, not room temperature warm, like something on the other side had been holding her hands all night. And by day 7, Temi called in the morning. Rose answered. They spoke normally for about 2 minutes. Then Rose stopped mid-sentence. She just stopped mid-word, like someone had pressed pause. Rose? Rose! Rose! Rose, are you there? Temi said. Then Rose spoke again, but her voice was lower, slower, like someone speaking a language they were still learning, choosing each word too carefully. I am here. 3 words. Simple. But Temi's hand tightened on the phone, because in 20 years of friendship, Rose had never said I am here. She always said I dey, or yes nah, or sorry na network. Never I am here. Like something that had just learned how to speak through a human mouth and had not yet learned how to sound casual. By day 12, Rose woke up at 3 a.m., not standing this time, sitting on the edge of her bed, both feet on the floor, hands in her lap. She looked down at her hands. Her right hand was holding a kitchen knife. She did not remember going to the kitchen. She did not remember opening the drawer. She tried to put it down. Her hands did not move. She tried again. This time, harder, concentrating, willing her hands to open. Her fingers tightened instead. Then her arms began to rise. Slowly, steadily, without her. She screamed. Inside, where nobody could hear, her face showing nothing, perfectly calm, perfectly still. While inside, she was tearing herself apart, trying to stop what her arm was doing. Her hand rose, past her chest, past her shoulder, the knife turning, blade towards her. And then, her phone rang. The sound cut through something, like a thread snapping. Her arms dropped. The knife fell, hit the floor. Rose collapsed sideways on the bed, shaking, every part of her shaking, but her face was still calm, still wrong, like the outside of her had not gotten the message yet that she was terrified. She lay there until morning, too afraid to sleep, too afraid to move, watching her whole hands on the mattress beside her like it belonged to someone else, like she could not trust it. And she was right. She could not trust it, not anymore. It had already shown her what it wanted to do, And next time, there might not be a phone call. But what nobody knew was that Rose was still there. Not gone, not dead, watching. From inside, every time she had stood before that mirror and looked, a piece of her had slipped through the glass. A vanity pulling her in, a longing pulling her in, a hunger to be chosen pulling her in. And now, she was inside, looking out through the glass at her own bedroom, watching something else move through her life, in her body, with her face. She screamed. Nobody heard. She beat her hands against the glass from inside. Nothing. She watched it pick up her phone, scroll through her contacts, answers call in her voice, but not quite right. She watched it stand in front of the mirror and look at itself in her body with an expression Rose had never made. Satisfaction. Ancient. Complete. Like something that had been waiting a very long time to have a face again, and was pleased with this one. The neighbor heard something through the wall at 3 a.m. Not words, not language, a sound. Wet, deliberate, rhythmic, like something being done slowly and carefully in the dark. Then Rose's voice, singing, something with no melody, something that went nowhere, just the same note, over and over. While that wet sound continued underneath it, the neighbor pulled her hair from the wall, went back to bed, told herself it was nothing. The next morning, she knocked on Rose's door to check. The door swung open immediately. Before she finished knocking, Rose was standing there, smiling, fresh, beautiful as always, ready for work. "Good morning." The neighbor smiled back and said, "Good morning." Then she turned to go back to her own flat, and then she stopped because she noticed something on Rose's neck, just above the collar, a mark, long, thin, horizontal, like something had been pressed against her throat in the night and held there. She turned back to ask, but Rose had already closed the door. That evening, the neighbor did not come home. They found her 2 days later, sitting in her office chair, both ends pressed flat against her own throat, like she had been trying to stop something or hold something in. The doctor said cardiac arrest, but the expression on her face said something different. The face of someone who saw something in Rose's eyes when she turned back to ask about that mark. Something looking back that was not Rose, and knew that it had been seen, and could not allow that. This is the part that is difficult to tell, because what the thing did with Rose's body was not random. It was not mindless. It was deliberate. It went to Rose's office, sat at Rose's desk, spoke to Rose's colleague. Everything almost right. Almost. But her colleague noticed things. Small things. She stopped blinking normally. Not that she didn't blink, but when she blinked, both eyes didn't close at the same time. A fraction of a second apart, like two separate things controlling each eyes. Her colleagues joked about it. They laughed it off. But they stopped laughing on the day she turned her head completely to look at something behind her. Not normally. Not the way a neck turns. Further, a neck rotating past the point a human neck should be able to rotate, and holding there for 4 full seconds, looking at something in the corner of the office that nobody else could see, then slowly rotating back to face forward, like nothing had happened. One colleague stood up and left the building, but did not come back. For 3 days, nobody could explain why they felt what they felt when they watched it happen, only that something in their body knew that what they were looking at was not supposed to exist. At night, it did not sleep. Rose's neighbors began to notice movement in Rose's flat at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and 4 a.m. Not the sound of someone going to the bathroom, Not the sound of someone getting water, the sound of someone moving slowly, deliberately, around every room, like something learning a space it had never inhabited before, memorizing it, corner by corner, wall by wall. 4 days, no contact from Rose. Tammy went to the flat. The door was unlocked. She pushed it open. The flat was dark. Curtains drawn. In the middle of the afternoon, the air inside felt heavier, older, like she had stepped into a room that existed in a different time. Rose was in the bedroom, standing in front of the mirror, back to the door, perfectly still. Rose. Rose?
Rose!
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 Then it turned around, and Tammy's body did something her mind had not decided to do. It stepped backward, involuntarily. One step, like her leg had already made a decision that her brain was still catching up to. Because it was Rose's face, Rose's body, Rose's hair, Rose's lip. But the face was doing something Rose's face had never done. It was completely still, not relaxed still, not calm still, still like a predator still, the kind of stillness that has nothing to do with peace, everything to do with deciding, and the eyes were not blinking at all. They were fixed on Tammy, unmoving, studying her, the way something studies something it is considering for the first time. Tammy said her name again, barely a whisper. Rose. It tilted its head, slowly, to the left, further than a head should comfortably tilt, and then further, past comfort, past normal, holding there at an angle that made Tammy's own neck ache just by looking at it. Then it smiled, with Rose's lip, but the smile started from the wrong place, not from happiness, not from recognition, from somewhere older. Something that had smiled before smiling meant warmth, when smiling meant something else entirely. Tammy ran. She did not take her bag. She did not close the door. She did not stop running until she was 3 streets away. Then she called her mother and said only this, "Mommy, Rose is gone. Something is wearing her body." And he just smiled at me. "Please, come. Come now." They came that night, Tammy's mother and 2 women who did not introduce themselves. They spoke very little. They covered their eyes before entering the bedroom. It was sitting on Rose's bed when they entered, hands folded in its lap, head still tilted at that angle, watching the door before they even opened it, like it had heard them coming from the street. One of the women began, words in a language that sounded like more than one person speaking through one mouth. It listened, head tilting the other direction now, like it recognized the words from a long time ago, from the last time someone had tried this. Then it stood up, and its body moved wrong. Rose's body moved wrong, not like a person stand, like something unfolding from a position a human body should not be able to hold. It walked towards the women, slowly, and it spoke in Rose's voice, but the words were not Rose's. The language was not Rose's. The sound underneath the word was not human, a vibration, like something resonating from inside the chest of a frequency that made the mirror behind it begin to crack. Hairline fractures, spreading from the center outward. One of the women threw a cloth over the mirror, an old cloth marked with the same carvings as the frame. The room changed immediately. Rose's body convulsed violently, every muscle simultaneously, like something being pulled out of every cell at the same time. She fell, hard, face first. The sound of her hitting the floor was wrong. It was too heavy, like so many things hitting the floor instead of one. Then silence. Then Rose's voice, a real voice. It was hers, from the floor. One word, Tammy. She remembered everything, every moment inside the mirror, every moment watching something moving through her life, in her body. She remembers screaming with no sound, beating against the glass with no impact, watching her own hands doing things she would never do, her own mouth say things she would never say, in languages she had never learned. She recovered physically in about 3 weeks, but she never went back to that flat. She never picked anything up from the floor again. She never stood in front of any mirror for longer than 30 seconds. And sometimes, in the middle of a conversation, she would stop mid-sentence and look at her hands, slowly, like she was checking that they were still hers, that the person moving them was still her. It was always her. She just needed to be sure. As for the mirror, it was not destroyed. You cannot destroy something that old. It was sealed again, wrapped, taken somewhere. And tonight, somewhere in this city, it is waiting, propped against a fence, or the side of a road, or outside a gate, beautiful, ornate, free, for whoever walk past and think, God has blessed me today. Not everything placed in your path is meant for you. Some things are placed there for what is inside them, and they have been waiting for someone exactly like you to pick them up. Leave things where they are. My wonderful viewers, did you enjoy this story? If you do, then please don't ignore, like, comment, and also subscribe to this channel for new story every Thursday and Saturday. Thank you for watching.